Good morning. Today's my birthday, and I thought that I'd sit down and have my first cup of coffee with you and share with you some random things that I've learned throughout the year that were extremely impactful and transformative. So, I don't know if you have 5, 6, 7 minutes to spare, but I'd love for you to stick around because I've had one of the toughest years of my life. And for me, that's not me complaining. That's me being grateful for all the lessons that have been imparted to me. I always look at life that way. I'm inherently an optimist, and so whatever I go through, I understand that I'm going through it for a reason, although it's not always easy because you're having to feel really uncomfortable stuff. You're having to go through things that are quite unpleasant. But on the other side of that, you become wiser, you become more mature, you become more of you. So I turned 41 today, and last year when I turned 40, I finally plucked up the courage to say, okay, let's get these live events going. Let's take my career to a whole new level. And the universe said, no, no, no. We've got some things we need to show you first. So a lot of times in life, you're going to be stopped in your tracks and you're going to think that you're stuck or that you're blocked in some way, when in actuality, the universe is trying to show you something that you're not seeing. And if you start something prematurely, then you're going to get on a timeline where you're playing out a very different story than you would if you saw more. So I was determined. I'm very, very ambitious. I've had that since I was a kid. And I'm ambitious, but I know when to sit back and when to go, because I want this to be authentic. I want this to be organic. I don't want to ever force things. So a lot of my life has been to tame my internal dragon, right? To temper myself and to continue to practice patience, because I know that everything I need and everything that I'm going to do in this life exists within me. So my number one priority is to cultivate a relationship with me, to cultivate a relationship with the universe, and to learn to listen. Okay? That's why I don't like a lot of distractions. I don't like a lot of noise, because then I'm able to be in a relationship with my internal world. And so when you're going on a path like this, you're still going to go through a lot of things because you're traveling in a forest that's inside of you. So you can still get banged, and you can still step on a needle. You can still get hurt, but all of it's happening within you, so that in the future, you've already encountered those obstacles and were able to overcome them. I prefer doing it that way. I prefer, because I have a wild imagination, and then through that imagination, I'm able to feel things, and then I'm able to process my emotions around that particular topic or around that particular relationship. And then it kind of opens up the pathway within me, and then a year, 2 years down the line, I step out into the world and it's really easy. I like that because I know that I've accomplished it within myself. Okay, so I want to talk to you about some of the things that I learned this past year that were super, super impactful for me. So number one, I learned that I'm neurodivergent. So I process things differently than most people. And it stands to reason why I've always seen through smoke and mirrors. I've always been able to read people really easily. If their intentions aren't pure, I know it, and then I kind of recoil. And I've been like that my whole life. It's funny because when I was a personal trainer 10 years ago, this guy walked up to me and was like, "Are you autistic?" And I'm like, because I've always kept to myself if I feel like that's what I need to do. And I never had an explanation to it, but I'm very reserved. And if I feel like you have a weird energy, which is not judgmental, it's just that I don't want to get entangled with that because I know what it's going to turn into, then I usually am more hesitant to get to know people. And then if you have a really warm energy about you and you're real and honest, then it's like, please don't go. I want to keep talking to you, you know? So I learned a lot about myself, of how I process, and I can process information really fast as long as it's information that I care about. And through that, I'm extremely intuitive and sensitive, and I know if I'm getting warmer or colder, or if someone approaches me and I don't feel the vibe, then I have to listen to that. So one of my main lessons this year was to fully accept who I am. You see, a lot of you already know who you are, but you're refusing to accept it because you think there's something wrong with the way that you feel. Everything I knew when I was 20 years old has come true. It's just that I postponed it until the age of 40. So trust what you feel, because what you feel is accurate. And there's nothing wrong with the way that you feel. As a matter of fact, what makes you think that what you feel is wrong and that what someone else feels is right? It's all relative. So own who you are. I also learned that when you start to let go of anyone who loves you conditionally, a lot of problems can start happening in your body, because those sicknesses, those illnesses, if you will, that you weren't aware of were already existing inside of you. And so when you start to cut toxic people out of your life, it's almost like a volcano that starts to erupt, and you don't understand why you're having physical issues. You don't understand why you might have paranoia or why you have hypochondria. All of a sudden, all these issues start to happen, and you're like, I've never had this my whole life. Yeah, you never had this your whole life because you were entangled with those people, and that created a blind spot in you, and you were unaware of the illnesses or the sicknesses that were going on inside of you, the toxicity that was going on inside of you. So I learned that when I let toxic things go, and look, I don't blame anyone in my life. I want y'all to know that. And I mean that sincerely. I give thanks to everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it's all pointing me in the direction of who I really am. All right? It's your internal compass. So if something doesn't feel good, it's trying to orient you to your truest self. So if there's someone in your life that's mistreating you, give thanks to that person in your mind. In your mind, don't say it because they're actually hurting you, but give thanks to them in your mind because they're pointing you in the direction that you need to go. And always have a conversation before you leave them. Try to have 1 or 2 or 3. I think I had 50, and to no avail. So then I knew it was time. Although I wanted to make it work, that's not what the universe wanted. I mean, it was what the universe wanted, but it takes 2 to tango, right? So you have to listen to yourself. If someone doesn't make you feel safe, you can try to have a conversation. Don't leave without saying anything, because that's not fair to the other person. Try to be compassionate, try to be loving. But if it's like talking to a brick wall and they're not hearing you, eventually you have to stop using so much effort. They're making you work too hard. So this past year, I really had to accept myself completely. And one of those components, one of those components in accepting myself was I finally accepted that I don't want to belong to anything. And I've always been that way. And that's why I felt so uncomfortable and so prickly when people would try to control me or tell me who I am, because I'm really not interested in belonging to anything. I want to be who I am with everyone in my life, without exception. I want to be consistently me, because I already feel like I belong to something divine. I already feel like I'm in relationship with something that is not of this world, and that's where I belong. Okay? This world is a lot of times is not what you think it is. It's just reflecting back to you where you're not accepting yourself, where you're still judging yourself for feeling what you're feeling. So this world is only based on your current perception. Okay? That's all it is. You're coloring the world based on what you've been through, based on who hurt you. And so every day when you step out of your apartment or out of your house, you're walking into yourself. You're walking into yourself and into the parts of you that you don't want to look at. And when people get under your skin or they trigger you or they provoke you, you're in your body. It's just that you don't want to look there. You don't want to address the ongoing issue that's been with you your whole life, which is that you're not accepting yourself. So you have to accept all of you, your light, your darkness. You have to make peace with who you are. You start there, okay? Accept who you are. So I accepted that I didn't want to belong to anyone or anything. I feel much more comfortable being me because I love me. I genuinely love my brain. I love my mind. I love life. It's not life is pretty tough on me, but that's the path that I chose because I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn as much as I can. So whenever I talk to you about my issues online, just know that it's not me complaining. It's, yes, I can go through a lot of pain and I have my moments where I cry, but I'm immensely grateful for everything that is imparted to me. I'm immensely grateful for all the lessons that I go through every day. I've probably been 30 fills in this lifetime. I'm constantly transforming from the inside out, and I wouldn't have it any other way because you keep deepening yourself and deepening yourself and deepening yourself. So those are some of the lessons that I've learned. I've learned, well, I can't really say I've learned a lot of patience because that's something I've always had to have because I was undocumented in the US for 13 years. So, this business I built on my own, but I didn't have a business for the longest time. I was working under the table. I was driving people. I was doing all kinds of things under the table to survive. So I've had a kind of a crazy hand dealt to me, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the world. So I want you to really embrace who you are. I want you to understand the importance of self-acceptance, that what you feel is okay. And as long as you keep letting people's energy influence you, then that's what will keep happening. At some point, you've got to say, this is who I am. Okay? I'm not playing that game with you anymore. I want to let you know who I am. Draw a line in the sand so you understand this is my space and this is your space. My space, your space. And to me, that's a higher form of love. It really is. It's a higher form of love. Society is not going to tell you that. See, the society tells you, get enmeshed with people, get entangled with people, and then you end up with a world full of people pleasers and people who are neurotic because you're constantly giving in to these negative thoughts and to these obligations and to these pressures, and you've given all of your power away to a false reality, to a false world. Most of the world is neurotic, and because everyone is neurotic, we call that normal. I'm neurotic, right? But we're all neurotic to varying degrees, and the work is to recognize the thoughts that you have that tell you that you're not enough, that you're not lovable, that you're not worthy, that you're going to get sicker, that you're going to get all these things. You look at these thoughts and you say, I'm not going to be in a toxic relationship with you anymore. You see, the thoughts that you have are depictive of the relationships you have. And you're going to find that a lot of the friends that you have and a lot of the relationships that you have are a product of the trauma that's been with you your whole life. So most of those friendships will not work out. So don't insist on making them work out. You have to focus on accepting yourself. If you don't fully accept who you are and you're still people pleasing in any capacity, then you still haven't fully accepted yourself. You have to accept yourself. That's where your journey truly begins, is this is who I am. Okay? I had to accept myself. I had to stop playing both sides. Like, for instance, I had a really tough year with my health. I had to accept that I believe that I will heal. But I had days where I would feed into my neurosis and be like, baby, do you think I'm going to heal? Baby, do you think I'm going to heal? Right? So I was playing both sides of the fence. And I eventually said, no, I have to accept my truth. I can't be playing both sides, yeah? So you have to accept everything that you believe and everything that you feel. So I hope this helps you. I love you. And don't be afraid to be yourself. I think people need to learn boundaries. I think we all need to learn how to respect each other's space, okay? This is how you become more creative. This is how you become more in tune with the world around you, is when you're not cluttered with everyone else's expectations of you and you should do this or you should do that for me. That's only going to keep you in a disempowered state. So accept yourself fully. Accept what you believe. I believe I'm going to heal, so I have to accept that as my truth. And I have to stay there. You have to stay there. And anytime you feel like someone's energy is pulling you out of you, bring yourself back. This is my mind, not your mind. That's mind. That's mine. My mind. That's mind. Okay? So I love you so much. Maybe I'll come back with more, but that's what I can think of right now.